Hey, how's it going? Trying to make sure I'm not that neighborhood auntie trying to figure out the technology here. Give a few minutes for people to trickle in here. You know what? It's 2:30. Let's kick it off. Let's get started. Happy Thursday, everyone. I'm just so excited to be here. My name is Marlaina Love, and I'm the CEO and founder of Pipe Dream Academy. It's an e-learning platform empowering learners to explore affordable alternative pathways to a more fulfilling and meaningful career. Today, we will be discussing AI and autonomous economic economy. But before I kick it off, I definitely want to say this conference is so on fire right now, and I'm so inspired. Like Arline Hamilton, I think I said it wrong, but Arline, she is amazing. So I am so honored to be here and to share my passion and knowledge for artificial intelligence. But before I even just talk about it, I just want to get a feel for how where everyone is on a scale of 1 to I have no clue what AI is. Like, how familiar are you with AI? I do have a poll in there that give me an idea of where you are with understanding what AI is so that I can tailor my language a little bit. And while you're doing that, let me just dive into my story because that's going to be important for the topic today. And my story into AI, it really began in my childhood. I was born the fourth child of seven children into a single parent home in poverty. Spent majority of my childhood caring for my grandmother who was chronically ill. And on top of that, I was a domestic violence survivor. My father, he was a bit of an alcoholic. Now, this is not a story for you to bring out the tissue, so let's not do that just yet. But this is a story of resiliency because at this moment, when I was in my final year in high school, that's when that fire inside of me just lit up. That's when I was on a mission to just run away from this ideal lifestyle of living in poverty and just start a new life. And the life that I was going to create was not going to be the one that I had growing up. And so that's where all that passion and ambitions come from because I knew what that lifestyle was like and I just did not want to go back. And speaking of passion, I just pursued it. My passion for me was science, technology, and business. And doing that research, it kind of led me to a career, to a major called Management Information Systems. I had no idea what that was, but I knew that it was a career path for me where I could combine my passion and my interests, being a businesswoman and technology together. Or it could be that my grandmother said to never ever in my entire life become a nurse because I sucked at it, and she was right. I did, and I hated it. So that's a little bit of my childhood there. But that passion, it really took me so far into technology. You know, in my career, I am not my career, but in my collegiate career, I went on to becoming a two-term president of my major student organization. I got a chance to graduate with over 5 internships in technology, and I got a chance to sit at the table and network and meet with amazing, thoughtful leaders who were senior chief information officers and technical officers in the field of IT. So I got a chance to really network and be in the IT community and know that this was the field for me and that was my passion. But somewhere down the line, I kind of got off track of wanting to be an entrepreneur and going the corporate route. So let's walk through that corporate journey before we go back to the startup journey. Once I graduated from the University of Memphis, I began my career as a project manager. I went on to do this journey for about 5 years now. I worked in industries including supply chain manufacturing. I worked in medical device technologies and retail, all in a space of software development. Can you guys not hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. All right, just want to make sure. Absolutely. Good. Perfect. You guys can hear me. So I did my career as a project manager in the software development space. And that is really the meat of the industry. I feel like it. These are the engineers, the people who build the application that power a lot of the technology solutions out here in the real world. So being a project manager now in autonomy vehicles, where we create the software for vehicles, and a startup founder in the education space, I get to come to you with a little bit of perspective from thought leadership. And I should probably talk about as well of my startup journey that once I became into the space of artificial intelligence, this really started last year when I was a little bit confused in my career of where I wanted to go. And I had an eye for AI. Like many people, AI was this big thing. It's like it's the future. You get to automate things that it's you need to be part of it. If not, you're missing out. And I looked into it, I researched it, and I really like the unlimited possibilities that AI can bring to you. It can bring a lot of things, and I get a chance to talk about that. I don't want to necessarily spoil it, but being a person who wanted to have a career in artificial intelligence, I really could not get a career because my career was in software development and it was in project management. So naturally, the next step was to join an organization or to get some type of training that would allow me to really boost up that opportunity for me to get into AI. And for me, that was Blacks in Technology. By simply attending a conference like this, BigCon 2 years ago, I got a chance to network with recruiters who allow me to grow into the career field as a digital in the digital space to really hone in on those skill set. But I also got a chance to join an accelerator program called Women in AI, which allow women like me who had just the smallest ideas, but who wanted to do something in AI, they bring it through a program that allows you to take that idea and form it into an actual concept that can be tested in the market. So, my friends, all of this happened literally this year where I was still trying to figure out how can I get in AI. I did my first check mark, got into a digital space. That's something. But really connecting around individuals in the field that led into accelerator program had allowed me to become a startup founder in AI and to grow my brand. And now you have both a project manager and a startup founder who is not only leading it, but who is deep in it enough to talk to you today about why you should also be a part of this and how you can lead with this in the future. And hopefully, I can take away some of your worries. So, I come to you today not just a project manager who manages a very wide global team who built this amazing technology, but I come at it from an angle of how I influence the technology is built, like how this technology is built. Keyword how. We manage it a lot. We will get it from point A to point B. But the most important thing I want you to get out of here is how it is built is the most important thing when it comes to AI. So asked you guys to take the poll. I wanted to see like where your experience lies. So we have about a good 71% who is somewhat knowledgeable. So that's good. So I can talk a little bit technical about it. That's perfect. So my goal today in this topic is I definitely want to talk about what is AI. Let's redefine that. Let's talk about the opportunities and the threats that it poses to humans in our economy. And my goal on all of this is to simplify it with the knowledge and insight so that you can leave this talk today feeling empowered of how you can coexist in an autonomous future with AI and how you too can influence how these models are being developed so that it can support our community and not hurt us. That's all right with everyone. So let me ask the question here, right? What is AI? We all have here the definition. Everyone has their own interpretation of it. But for AI, it's simply a disruptive technology that emulates the functions of a human and replicates human capabilities. It has the ability to learn, to understand, and to think like a human. So we all heard this saying before. If it acts like a duck, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? So let's apply the same concept to human beings. We're trying to essentially create a technology. We have a technology that, with enough research and a lot of development, they're really just trying to make it into another human being. But I am here to tell you that we're not even close from that happening. So you can take a really big sigh of relief from that. We are not close to that. But that is the goal, is how far can this technology go to where it's practically a human, where it's making decisions on its own, it's solving problems, it can reason, it can recognize speech and visuals. There's two types of this that makes AI what it is, because AI is only a product of what we built. What makes AI what it is machine learning and deep learning. All of this is based on algorithms that is learned from data to make predictions and decisions on how it is performed. Keyword, it learned from data that we feed it. So I want to give you guys an example of how this works so you guys can follow along with me here. Let's say I give a model, machine learning, a bunch of images, and I want that model to, the next time it encounters a cat, it can tell me if it's a cat or if it's a dog. So I feed all these images of what this cat looks like. And the next time it sees that cat, it can tell me it's a cat. And it's more controlled because the cat that I give it is the cat that I've trained that model on. So it's reacting to the environment that I create for it. Whereas we have deep learning, where we say, you know what, there's like 10,000 other cats out there, and we're just gonna give you all this data. And when you see a cat just randomly walking down the street, can you identify which cat this is? That deep learning model is gonna tell me, oh, this looks like a cat. It's acting like a cat. It's purring like a cat. I think this is a cat, but it's also from this species. So that was a dumbed down version of what machine learning and deep learning can do. But what if we bring it to healthcare and we talk about cancer? What if we built a model where we feed it all of these images to recognize cancer at its early stages? That is what's happening right now. Building a model that can identify cancer early to the point where it can do it better than a radiologist. Is that a threat? Or is that some opportunity that a radiologist can leverage and aid with the work it's doing? There's a lot of conversations that we can have about AI, but I want to focus on one particular thing that's important when we think about AI, and that's the data. Now, you probably came to my session and you thought that I was going to just lay it out for you, give you the 5 key points about all the threats that AI can do and the 5 scenarios you can do to resolve it. But it doesn't matter if we're in healthcare, we're in autonomy vehicles, we are in education. They all rely on the same exact problem, and that's data. AI do not live without data. It is built on data. And the number one saying that I say all the time is that data is only as good as the scientists. And if you've been following for the past few years and today, you can pretty much have a good idea of how many data scientists we have that are not Black, or how many scientists that we have that are Black. Matter of fact, do we have any data scientists here? Are we aware of any data scientists? Feel free to put that in chat because I am curious to actually know about that. But that's a threat, because when you don't have a scientist that looks like us, that represents us, they cannot advocate for our community. Now, all of this is not intentional, or it could be in some circumstances, but when you think of it, like examples, like TikTok was recent, and Instagram, social media is big, and we talk about algorithms. We say the algorithms, they don't represent Black people, they take us out. Well, is it really TikTok fault, or is it really no? Is it really the algorithm's fault, or is it TikTok fault because they didn't bring in Black people in their research and their study to advocate for them and their data? That's the things we want to look at. We hear about Apple, we hear about all these technology companies that uses AI, but you really have a technology that can't even identify if I'm a man or a woman. And spoiler alert, I've been called a man a few times, and I don't feel too good about that because I could have sworn I look like a woman, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm not getting plastic surgery though. But the key point is that in these technology roles, that's where we have to have advocacy. And that is where you come in from an opportunity standpoint. You, by being Black alone, you are already an opportunist. You already are at an advantage because by you being a Black person, a person of color, you get to bring that diversity and inclusion mindset. So I would take it back to my startup round. We always talk about like how can you differentiate yourself in a saturated market. And let me just go ahead and say this. My biggest concern, I think I said it earlier, is that we're rushing to be the first to deploy the latest technology, but we're not the ones to get it right. We're not rushing to be the ones to get it right. And so naturally, by me being a startup founder in ed tech, I could have created a best scenario. Like my ed tech platform is going to get a lot of Black students into technology. That's great, but do they even have access to technology, right? Are we creating a safe environment for them to learn, for them to have access? Those questions are not asked for someone who do not look like us, who cannot advocate for us. But because I'm a Black founder, I could think about that because I can think about my own background, my own story, my own life, right? That's where representation matters. It matters not only inside of the data that we're building the algorithm to serve our community, but it matters on the outside. So I'm gonna say that again, okay? Representation matters not only on the inside of the data, but also the outside of the data. Because when you have someone who understands their market, the audience that they're serving, they will be able to have technology that's inclusive and diversive. Diversive. That's it, right? Diversive for people of color. And then we won't have high profile stories that says, oh, right, another platform that doesn't represent Black people, or another platform that says I look like a man again. That's the beauty of this is how can we get right there at the table and to influence that? I do that as a project manager when I get to influence how it get developed and I get to ask those questions. As an engineer, you get to bring that reasoning, that thinking, that thought, that culture into your algorithms when you make it. And as a startup founder, you have the influence and the power that you can leverage to create a culture around your technology that's inclusive and give an opportunity there. So our biggest problem is that we need more people in technology like you all who are excelling in that so that you can be that advocate for our people in technology. So I did not come with all these tips, but I really want to talk about the importance of data and really talk about where you can find that. I highly encourage you guys to check out LinkedIn. I'm not LinkedIn, but Netflix, where they have the coded bias. You guys can check out LinkedIn, other resources, OpenAI, and even your local people who work in artificial intelligence. You all can also learn about it on a foundational level and be a part of those conversations. I participate a lot panel discussions and people who do not know anything about technology because they're fearful and scared that technology is going to take over our jobs. But the reality is, when it comes to AI, we're behind in America because AI is literally just another daily thing in a country like China, Japan, South Korea. But right now, in this unique opportunity, because we are so behind and there are so many gaps and so many problems, you have the unique opportunity to be a part of the solution and to bring such a diverse and inclusive mindset into how the next generation of models are being built and how these companies are being built. So I wanted to express on that one for a bit. I purposely did not want to go down the technology route and go into detail about AI, this and that, the technology, how the algorithms have, but I want to focus on the thing that matters is your data and the people that you're doing it for. Because I shared my story for a reason, because I am a human being and I have my own problems and I have my childhood. As I said earlier, I had a grandmother who had chronic illnesses. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I am a person who grew up in poverty. All of this is important because I'm a human being and these are real human problems. And when you think about how do you solve these problems, that's the question you should ask. Like, what is the problem and how can you solve it with technology? Our problem is when we just put technology in everything, and not only does it not solve the problem, but it makes it worse. And sometimes it's not technology that we need. Maybe it's people that we need to solve these problems. Maybe mentorships, maybe conversations, support, donations. All of that matters. But when you think about AI and data, think of it like, how did this proactively serve our community? So that's the talk that I have today. I wanted to keep it short and really talk about my ideas around that. Like I said, I am a founder of an ed tech company. I'm also a chapter president of Blacks in Technology, where we have these conversations in our community. And Blacks in Technology is an organization where we have like-minded people who talk about these topics and how you can lead on that. And I also have a community of AI enthusiasts called the Minnesota AI Network. And it doesn't matter if it's in Minnesota, but it's a growing community of 14,000 people who bring all diverse backgrounds into AI and who brings it into a conversation about how we can be more diverse. Got it. So that's my topic for today. I definitely want to leave time for questions, do Q&As. I think I know how to do this, but you definitely can put it in the chat, or I think I can also do a share audio or so for those who have questions. I can come at it from a career angle. If you're looking to start your career in artificial intelligence, from a data scientist to a project manager, or if you're looking to have a company in your startup realm, if you're looking to be in the startup world, I can give advice on that as well. Oh, I do have two requests. Okay, bear with me. I know I can do this. Let's see. Let's see. Greg, Brian, how do I answer these questions? Or the two requests I have here. I knew I was going to become that one auntie who cannot work with technology. Oh, okay. I just click on you.
Ship.
Oh, I got it.
Bro, sup, bro? Sup?
Looks like he's not ready. All right, so that was an epic fail, but you guys get it. I'll take the questions in the chat. Let's do it like that. And let me make sure I'm reading that comments. See. Can everyone hear me okay? You can. You guys just can't. Don't have any questions. So, what are the barriers to understanding career opportunities in AI? How can you barriers between careers? That's a great question. So, what are the barriers to understanding career opportunities in AI for people of color, and how these barriers can be minimized? So, this is a good question. The thing about AI, the only barrier that you have is yourself. I purposely said my story of how I journeyed into AI. I literally started this real true journey in AI in less than a year, all because I became enthusiastic about it. I have no coding background whatsoever. But like most technology careers, the crazy psych thing about it is that you don't need a college education to learn it. I highly encourage you to literally take some boot camp classes. Um, in Black STEM Technology, we have a lot of scholarship programs for certifications for machine learning, software engineering. Take those classes, have your network of mentors, learn about what they do in their careers, learn about the technology, and build portfolio of yourself working with models. Amazon, Grow with Google, and NVIDIA, they in the levels of foundations to deep level that you're actually making an AI model, they offer this to you free, if not limited, discounted for you. So if you're looking for a career in I encourage you to start with where the conversations are having based on LinkedIn and the companies that leverage AI technology. Go to a boot camp. There is one course on Udemy called Business Intelligence, and that starts you off with data. When you first understand data, how to segment data, how to analyze that, and use that to make decisions, then you can apply that thinking, that problem solving thinking, into how can I get this AI model to solve this problem or to solve this problem and be a solution for what I want it to be. Far as the barriers, the only barriers is that there's not enough of people of color in technology, and we need you there. And so, talk to your local HR person for that. Thank you, Stacey. Hopefully, you get your audio fixed, Jay. So, how long do you think before AI in medical use cases become affordable? See, you said medical. I don't think anything dealing with medical is affordable. But the question is, how long do I think that we can all have financial resources to be free, to be able to afford that? Poverty doesn't really have to be an issue. Access to capital and finances don't have to be an issue for that, but that's the environment that we in that allow and create for poverty to happen. So I don't think it's ever going to be affordable unless we really have some really breakthrough with insurance companies, or who knows, we have a democracy in the medical field where it makes it affordable and subscription based. A lot of startups are being formed for that. Or maybe you, Ashanti, could be that next person to allow AI for medical use to be more affordable. That's also an option on the table. I would like to learn more about how to become an AI. Oh, that's a good one. Do you have any resources that could provide me with more information on this topic? One, I would like to encourage you to start with Coded Bias on Netflix. There is a link. I have to look for it, but I can probably add it on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. But there is a link where it really talks about all the issues that AI have, like all the algorithms, all the problems, all the risks that AI can bring to human beings, all the way from the criminal sector to healthcare. So going back to a statement I made earlier, my best advice is to start with something you're passionate about and think about all the ethical issues that are happening with that and how you can start to address those gaps, like who are having conversations around that. So one example that I like to bring up is something as simple as legal. If you're a lawyer or if you like anything dealing with the law or legal aspect, algorithm and bias is a big issue. Accessibility is a big issue, and it's very ethical. So understanding what laws and policies are in place or need to be in place to address those issues is a pretty big thing. But that's just one area where you can help make it more ethical. Thank you. We have time for a few more questions as well. And if you could, anyone who wants to come up to the stage, text a question, or to provide input, definitely feel free to do so as well. That is what I have. That's a good point. Yeah, that's definitely a good point there as well. Mhm. So another thing I would say while we're waiting for time here, having conversations, is that we're also in an open market. You'll believe it or not, there's a lot of opportunities to land a career in AI. In fact, a lot of companies right now have a talent shortage when it comes to like technology careers like data scientists and AI. So I highly encourage you to look at different pipeline programs like Udacity, Coursera, companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, or even your small medium companies who are creating those boot camp like resources for you to train up and to go into those companies, leveraging their resources for that as well. So they're looking for more people into technology, and just having the basics and creating a profile, you can really be a part of that in the industry. And also meetup groups, because that's how I got my start in AI. Just going to a meetup group, see what the conversations they have, and asking questions. So we have another question. Would you say that AI and machine learning has passed the buzzword stage and is now in a place where companies are seeing return on eye when using that technology? 100%. And I agree. It's become a buzzword so much that people are confusing Photoshop with AI. And I kid you not, like when I look at it and do my research, it's like really, even I can do that probably on Canva. That is not AI. I I think a lot, it's like anything else, like with the whole keto diet and anything that they can like get a storyline for it. They just they don't understand it. But what you need to understand with AI is that there's a criteria for it. If it's a model that can act, think, and act like a human being, that is an AI model. That's what it does. And another thing that's so important in all of this is integrity in information. And that's something that really concerns me as well, is that there needs to be a healthy balance between people and technology. Granted, we would love to use this tool to make decisions, but there has to be a balance between when do that technology makes a decision for us and when are we allowed to have critical thinking, because the last thing that we want is to not have a mind of our own, to be able to reason, be able to think. We should be able to challenge what we see. If a technology, an AI model tells you that the sky is blue, are you going to believe it because it tells you the sky is blue, or are you going to do your research and say, why do you think the sky is blue? On what basis? These are the questions that you have to ask. And it really starts with the whole problem solving thing. It's understanding the problem, doing your analysis, making analytics, asking those questions to really challenge what you are seeing. Because if not, that's where a lot of it's an integrity thing, and it's also a question of morals that we want to create a better society. society right now is not where it needs to be. But if you create a technology model that is based on how we are, or even probably worse, how we should be, or dictate how we should live our lives, that should be up for question and pushback. So, part of science and technology is doing analysis, forming a hypothesis, and testing that theory. Hope I answered your question. Absolutely. So I'm not gonna be the one to hold everyone for too long, but okay, how do you feel about air influencers on age? Should there be a limit to visual? Oh, that's a whole nother conversation right there. So the question is, how do you feel about AI influencers on IG? Should there be a limit to visual manipulation? You just unpacked a lot when it comes to AI influencers. Personally am not opposed to AI influencers, but it do raise a red flag to how they are being created and how they're being used. I think we have one like FN, Mika, you have another one, Makila, who all have more followers than me, by the way, but they're AI bots. And you have like FN Mika, he's in FMTs, like it's an NFTs, he's in NFTs. Dude just made a toilet and he just made millions of dollars off of NFT toilet, but he's an AI. Saying, and he's also a rapper who's competing. So are we living in a future where out of all the celebrities who are human who get what do they get these days? Like AMAs award and Oscars is going to be an AI bot that gets that? I don't think I can imagine an AI bot beating Beyonce for an award, but that's the future that we could possibly look like. But I want to say all of this too is that everything that's happening is because we as people allow it to happen. And a lot of this also is you need to recognize the power that you have as a society and as people to say no. We have the ability to push back on what we see. If Makila or FN Mika is a thing we don't want to happen, we can say no and say scratch it. And they can't do anything about it. Like, I want you guys to look into 2020 with Hollywood. For the first time, Hollywood realized that it didn't really have the power over people, that the power was within the people who started to become celebrities, who started to make a living for themselves, who started to have real power to the point where you have people like Will Smith is competing with, I can't think of no influencers on the top of my head, but competing with real influencers. Everything that's happening that's going down the agenda, you all have a say so in that. That is your right to say so and to push back and say we will not accept this. But who knows? Anime is pretty big, so that might be an AI thing. There's a lot of possibilities. Like I've seen it all in that, and I encourage you to see what other countries are doing. So look like I have one person want to come up for questions. I don't want to be Samuel. If you have a question, just confirm it for me in the chat. I don't want to be caught off guard again. And I'll pull you up if you have a question on stage. Okay, perfect. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm a part of the conversations. I have a group. Blacks in Technology is a really great ally. We have people who are in AI who talk about it from different angles. But rule of thumb is to just know and just be okay with that. We as the world in general, we have enough issues. We have a lot of problems, but with every problem, there's an opportunity. And if we don't go by what we see in the news, like, oh my gosh, They're trying to use AI to identify Black criminals or increase their scenes. Look into it. Can they really do that? Or do you have influence where you can take a look into that data model and really give valuable feedback? Same thing with healthcare. If these are areas that you're focused about, pursue that from an ethical standpoint. And little spoiler alert, you don't need technology to question the ethics behind technology. You just have to ask the most human questions. Is it really solving a problem for humanity? Is it really making my life better? Or is it really just making it worse for us? That's the first time I heard that one. A man made an AI supermodel that was Black. You had to give me her Instagram so I can know. Representation. It means a lot. So I'm not gonna hold everyone up. That's my talk for today. I hope that was valuable for everyone. Definitely feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. We can plug you into the community. Thank you for your time today.